Hi everyone, welcome to the Hot and Healed podcast. Today we're going to be talking about attachment styles. So what the hell is an attachment style? So it's basically how you form relationships and show up in your bonds with other people. And it's shaped from your caregivers in your childhood and your first relationships in your life. So basically how relationships were modeled to you from like your parents is the relationships that you'll most likely attract in your life. And I began like really focusing on it because how you like show up in relationships really affects your life. I realized that I was lonely for most of my life, and I'm still like lonely now, but I'm getting better and making more relationships and connections. I've always had this problem of being sad because I was lonely and failing to make connections, and I was really the common denominator, and I really had to look within myself. And I'm doing the transfer process to transfer to another school, and writing about myself made me like really see myself for who I am and reflect on why I am the way I am. And writing every day really got me into a period of introspection. It really opened my eyes to like reflect on my childhood, why I am the way I am, and how my caregivers affected my attachment style and how I now make relationships today. And another big part of it is your attachment style based on your relationships with other people and how you treat other people, and by meeting other people as well you like reflect more on yourself. And I realized that I had this limerence with this guy who never really showed me love, and I have this habit of seeing love when there isn't any, because in my childhood I was raised without love, so I just like brainwashed myself to see love and idealize this person who I didn't really know, and I fell in a limerence with them. I thought about them every day and wouldn't stop. I convinced myself that he was my soulmate when he was really avoidant and he never talked to me, and I just would like see one small interaction and one act of kindness and blow it up out of proportion, and I'm like, he is the one. But he was really not. He was avoidant, and him being avoidant, ignoring me when I wanted love and I wanted that hope of love, made me realize that I'm avoidant too. And because he was avoidant to me, I became even more avoidant, even though I'm avoidant in the first place. And his like behaviors really reflected on my behaviors. I realized that I like distance and I feel safer in distance because growing up my parents were emotionally neglectful, they were emotionally abusive. My mom was just like super critical of me and really like put me down. She was like my bully and she never said anything nice to me, and that really affected my self-esteem. And growing up with mostly my mom at the time, who was verbally abusive and emotionally volatile, like she would just yell at me for no reason, and I wouldn't know when she would just like explode and like yell with her high-pitched screams. My dad was like away, so at work, like working 3 hours away, so I never see him. And my sister is 13 years older than me. She left for college and never came back. So basically, I grown up alone for most of my childhood, and that really affected my ability to make friends because, I was very alone, didn't really socialize that much, and I had to teach myself how to be social and make connections. And like as my mom was just yelling at me, I learned that hiding myself away in my room and being distant was the way I could protect myself. I shielded my emotions away. I was a very emotional and sensitive kid. I was a crybaby, and my teachers at school would tell me not to cry. Like crying was very discouraged. If I was crying because my mom was yelling at me, if my dad was around, he would yell at me for crying, which made me cry even more. So that really shut down my emotions and led me to distance myself away from my caregivers, because I learned that if I was distant and away, then I couldn't be yelled at and I couldn't be hurt. And not being able to show vulnerability and having the consolation, the support I needed of being supported and held and was told that it's okay, and having that emotional comfort meant that it wasn't safe for me to be vulnerable. So that's why I never became vulnerable to other people. I thought that if I was vulnerable, people would use it as leverage against me and like go against me. And I always like have a hard time trusting other people because I always think they're out to get me. And I realize that now, I realize that connection is all about like being vulnerable, showing like who you truly are and opening up, which I had a hard time doing. To know someone and to be vulnerable, it's not like a weakness, it's a strength. And having someone accept you and like listen to you is one step towards healing. And once you find people who will listen to you and accept you, it gives your mind evidence that you can be supported and you can be accepted by showing your true self. And your emotions are worthy, and it's okay to have emotions, and it's okay to feel hurt and pain, and you don't have to suffer alone. I realize I've been like really distant, and it's not because I don't care about the other people, it's because I've trained myself to feel like I don't need anyone else, and I'm super hyper independent because I had to be the one to regulate my own emotions and distance myself and self-soothe and tell myself that it was okay. I basically raised myself, and I am a lot stronger person because of what I've been through. But it is like kind of sad that like if I had someone growing up that would listen to me and supported me and accepted my feelings, like maybe I would be less alone and more willing to make connections and willing to open up. For what I've been through, I become more introspective, and I feel like I grew a lot as a person. But now I have like some better coping strategies. I journal, which really makes me able to talk to myself and understand my thoughts and emotions. I try to calm myself down. I realized that burying myself in academics, studying all the time, was a way to just dissociate and not have to like worry or think about anything. Growing up, studying, having good grades was the one thing I could control in an emotionally volatile environment where emotions were just so unpredictable and so scary. And if I realized that if I could just like feel good about, getting all my work done, then life would be all set. It's the one thing I can control. And I find that if I want to like do anything, like talk to like someone I care about, I get a lot of anxiety because, being close meant fear and anxiety. And I would find that before I talk to them, I have to finish all my homework and studying done because it's what like emotionally self-soothe me. And I guess like at least now I have good grades, so it's not the worst coping strategy. But that's just like a thing. So that's just a thing to know. Like if you are really focused on your academics, are you using it as escape or because you like controlling things and that's the one thing you can control, or you want that academic validation? My mom was never really congratulating me for having good grades. She's like rolled her eyes and said, "Oh, that's what you should do. It's pretty normal for you to get good grades. Tell me when you fail." That would be more surprising. I just wish like someone really supported me, uplifted me and told me like how proud they are of my accomplishments. And, I had to be the one to do that. Just know that, like, if your parents aren't supportive, like, support yourself. Be your biggest cheerleader and know that you're doing great and you're getting better every day. I found that, like, when I was stressed out in college, like, very overwhelmed with my new environment, I didn't reach out to my parents to call them for support and comfort. In fact, I felt more safe, independent, and living alone, which is kind of weird because I really didn't miss them. I didn't feel the need to call them, and I felt really good, like independent, which shows how hyper independent I am and how, I depend on myself for a lot of things. Even though I am grateful for my parents for like supporting me now, and now that I'm back at community college, I feel like my relationship with my parents is better because I talk to them more, and now I'm taking steps towards healing for what they did to my childhood because they're not abusive anymore. They're nicer to me. So that's better. And I wonder if like they're nicer to me because, I'm an adult, or maybe they've grown and more mature and they're less stressed out financially. Or maybe it's because like I changed my inner state to be calm, so my outer state, my everything outside of me becomes better. Or maybe it's because I'm more attractive and people are nicer to attractive people. We will never know. But I'm grateful for all they've done. I definitely feel that I don't really have like attachment towards my parents, and I don't really need them for anything. I just like to be around them, and like socially it's more acceptable to, like being around your parents and enjoy them. I found out when I'm near my parents, I get tense and stressed and anxious and annoyed. And it's my body from my childhood keeping the score of how much they hurt me in the past. And, I'm aware of it now. I think it's just good to like self-reflect and be aware of like your actions, because then you can take strides towards making small actions, and you don't have to like go full out, be vulnerable to like everyone you meet. It takes small steps to heal, and healing is a gradual process. I found in college, I thought that I would make like really good friends. I had an Asian friend group, and then they left me. Some people of the group got closer, and now I see that they're still close, and they ghosted me. They didn't talk to me without any explanation. And maybe it's because like I was like distant and avoidant, and I didn't really want to like go out and party like they did, and we had different morals and values. But I realized that I shouldn't take that like rejection as like, what will happen if I try to connect to all friendships? If your friendships fail, don't let that discourage you. If your relationships fail, don't let that discourage you. There's not everyone is like that, and you're gonna find people who will accept you. And sometimes like sometimes friendship breakups happen for a reason. They're not meant to be your friend forever, and if you were still in that friendship and they didn't like you, you wouldn't be happy anyways. You gotta find people who like align with you and who are emotionally mature to like communicate with you and don't just like ghost you for some reason. I thought that I would only myself, but now I have like I made my own like club, and I really like enjoy my club members' presence, and I really like value their time, and I really learned like the value of connection, relationships, and like having a good conversation. One good thing that came out of going to community college is my mentor, who I can like have really long conversations with, and like I always think that if I have really long conversations with people, I really need to break it off so I don't bore them out. And I never thought I could have a conversation for like longer than 30 minutes, but then like an hour goes by and time goes by really fast. And that's like one of like the only times that I'm heard and listened to, and all I ever wanted was someone to listen to me and like hear me out. And just to have someone like accept me and just like listen and not judge me, it's just like really healing. Which is why I think like therapy works, because you have someone to talk to. If you don't have like friends or like family to talk to, like definitely get a therapist. Sometimes I just be like psychotic and just use ChatGPT as my therapist, because at least there's text coming out to my responses, because at least ChatGPT responds. Sometimes ChatGPT says what you want to hear. So every day, every night, I've been like watching videos on avoidant attachment, trying to heal myself. And I catch, and now like being aware that I'm actually avoidant attachment makes me aware of like the things I do to self-sabotage and push people away. Like if I see a friend while I'm going snowboarding, I won't ask them to snowboard with me even though I really want to. I don't reach out for connection. I don't talk to people. And even though it's annoying that like it feels like I'm always the one initiating and making contact, sometimes you just gotta be the one to initiate and see like what the vibe is and if they will reciprocate. But if you're always the one initiating and they're never, initiating or talking back, just cut it off. Just cut it off. But sometimes like after a long period of time, if you're not talking, you can like initiate and see what happens. Realize that like if you feel like leaving, take a few minutes to just be present and just stay a little longer and see that it's nothing happened and it's all right. If you feel like leaving, just stay a little while longer, and then you'll realize that it's not too bad. Being around people is not too bad. Of course, like if you need to like self-soothe and regulate alone, of course do that. Don't push yourself too hard. It all comes in gradual steps, being aware of your actions and making tiny adjustments towards that. But know that if you want to change, you can heal, and we will become secure. You can always change to be secure. Be aware of yourself. Know that you're not alone. It's safe to make connections. Be vulnerable. You don't need to be alone all the time. And you're going to find someone. You're not always going to be alone for the rest of your life. Anyways, thank you for listening. Hope it helped.